Recording in progress. The Pledge of the Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I don't, okay, great. Oh, just, okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to call the Milton Planning Commission of July 27th to order. This is a regular meeting of the City of Milton Planning Commission. I'm Kurt Nolte, and the 7-member commission appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council is created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations on rezoning, use permits, concurrent variance applications, comprehensive land use plan and plan map, and other related plans and amendments to the zoning ordinance. In attendance tonight, we have a new member. Welcome, Trey James. Trey is his first meeting, so welcome. We're looking forward to your perspective and input, so welcome. Laura Weinsong is absent, so she is home ill. We have Ron Gilbert. We have Samit Shah. We have Judy Birds and Fred Edwards. Let's see, we can go through some of this pretty quickly. The petitions will be heard in the sequence listed on the posted agenda, which you all have one. I'd like to acquaint you with some of the rules and procedures conducting this meeting. The applicant, although speaking in support of an application, will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the petition. The applicant may choose to save some of that time for rebuttal following presentation by the opposition. The opposition will then have 10 minutes to present its position. If time remains, the opposition will be allowed to rebut. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will, with the allotted time, the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks provided the time remains. The staff of the Community Development Department will be keeping track of the time and will inform us periodically of the remaining time for each section. Each speaker must fill out a speaker card before speaking and leave it with a staff member of the Community Development Department. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organizations, if applicable, before the presentation. When an opponent of a rezoning action is made within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of a rezoning action being opposed, campaign contributions aggregating $250 or more to the local government official, the local government which will consider the application, it shall be the duty of the opponent to file a disclosure with the governing authority of the respective local government at least 5 days prior to the Planning Commission. A violation of the relevant state statute constitutes a misdemeanor. Therefore, bottom line, if you've contributed $250 or more to a City Milton Council member and you have not filed a disclosure prior to the Planning Commission meeting tonight, the city attorney strongly suggests you have someone else speak for your point of view. Each application has been properly filed with the Department of Community Development. Signs have been posted on each site. The matter has been advertised and the notices have been emailed or mailed to property owners affected by this zoning as required by the Milton zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission's recommendation will be forwarded to the City of Milton Mayor and City Council for final disposition in approximately 5 weeks or the first Monday of each month at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. The Community Development Department has reviewed each application in conjunction with the various agencies and departments.
Mr. Chair, you don't need to read that
Oh,
part.
okay.
You just do the preliminary plat because that doesn't apply. These aren't going to the council.
Okay, let me see
Yeah,
if,
just go to the preliminary plat.
let me be sure I have that.
Get that for you if you need it.
Yeah, I may need that. I don't know if I have got that in my notes. Preliminary plats. The planning commission is tasked by the city's subdivision ordinance to conduct a public hearing on proposed preliminary plats that have been found to be complete by the Community Development Department. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the planning commission is required to review the proposed preliminary plat and provide comments and make recommendations regarding the plat to the community development director. The planning commission does not approve or reject the proposed preliminary plat, but provides comments or recommendations based on public hearing and the planning commission's review of the proposed preliminary plat. Okay. We go to the agenda. The first item, or the third item on our agenda, is consideration of the minutes from the June 22nd Planning Commission meeting action minutes. I know those were circulated. I think Judy had an update on those, so thank you, Judy. Any other comments or questions on the minutes, or do I have a motion?
So, Mr. Chair, there were 2 typos on it that we went ahead and changed. So the first one was completing out 2040. It was whatever. It was 204, and then I added the 0. And then on the second page, under RZ 2203, it had sports buffers instead of sports clubs. So we've made those changes. So if there's anything else, just let us know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Fred. I move we accept the action minutes from Wednesday, June 22nd.
Aye.
With the corrections.
I second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consideration of preliminary plots. The Long Street Road Puckett Assemblage. Tracy, you're presenting this?
I am,
Great.
yes. Hey, good evening, Commissioners. Welcome, Commissioner James. Pleased to have you. We are going to take another look at the Puckett Assemblage preliminary plat. The first presentation of this was June 22nd. We decided to defer that to tonight's meeting in order for the applicant to provide some additional information. And so we have that, and I'm going to run through the presentation quickly as we did, and then the additional information has been added at the end. The Puckett Assemblage is located on Long Street Church Road. It is land lot 181 and 182. Existing zoning is AG1, a total of 45.464 acres. It is undeveloped, and 30 single-family lots are proposed. The owner and developer is Toll Brothers, Inc., the site planner Travis Pruitt Associates, and the proposed preliminary plat is to subdivide the 45.464 acres into 30 single-family lots with a density of 0.66 lots per acre. Minimum 1 acre lot sizes are proposed, with 2.965 acres located within the floodplain, and all lots located in Milton will be on septic. The location map to the right identifies the subject property. Cherokee County is joining the property on the north, to the east by Forsyth County, on the south by the Manor Golf Club and Country Club, and on the west by Manor View. The preliminary site plan for this property proposes 30 1-acre lots. There is an entrance from the Cherokee County on the north side into the Milton portion, and on the east from Forsyth County into the Milton portion. The overall plan on the right side identifies the Milton portion in relationship to the other jurisdictions. Again, the City of Milton property is 45.4 acres. This graphic shows a site analysis. It gives you a conceptual look at the overall master plan for all 3 jurisdictions. This is a conceptual plan. It has changed, but it's a good context to see the Milton portion to Cherokee and Forsyth. To the right, we have some analysis information that supports this master plan. A few things to note. We are going to have we do have an intergovernmental agreement with Cherokee County and Forsyth County for fire service. The school district will be from Fulton County. Milton lots will be septic. Lot sizes proposed range in size from 1 acre to 3 acres. And during the LDP process, we will identify those lots that have restricted buildable areas. You can see from a few lots, lot 1, 6, 7, all of these shaded areas identify the buildable areas. Lot 9 in comparison to lot 10 obviously is different. So we will do a better analysis of that during the LDP stage. Some of the items and the questions from last month's meeting was around the existing topo. The existing topo, at least in the City of Milton section, has been provided. We have all of that from the applicant. You can see in the far northwest east corner of the property, contour 1150, and then down along the creek bed as at 1050. The applicant did identify steep slopes, and the only slopes that are greater than 33% are the existing pond dam and, of course, the creek bed, and those areas are shaded in the dark gray. The center line of the property, or the center line of the creek, rather, does act as the property line for the subject site. Existing tree survey identifies the existing specimen trees that are located in the City of Milton property. The chart to the left identifies the size of those trees and the condition that they're in now. And a further look at our future land use map does identify this property, highlighted in the star, as agriculture, equestrian, and state residential. These last 3 slides were not included in last month's presentation, and hopefully would address some of the questions that we had from last month. I do have our site engineer here tonight to answer any questions, and I invite any feedback at this time.
Any comments, any feedback at this point to the staff? Okay.
I don't know if it's staff or from the applicant, but in the site plan that we were given, it calls out that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wetland inventory. And it says wetlands are not located on this site, yet we're highlighting wetlands.
I think there's a little confusion on that. By the way, I'm Jerry Oberholzer, Site Development Engineer for City of Milton. There is a map that Fish and Wildlife has, but that isn't all encompassing. And basically what they've done is when they did their site review and went out there, they identified wetlands based on the characteristics on the ground. So what they provided is a more accurate picture than what Fish and Wildlife has.
I have a question for Jerry. In looking at I'll call them ponds in Lot 1 and Lot 6 and 7, because they appear to start and stop, although there is a wetlands extending from them. So help me understand how that is a pond that extends into the wetlands and not a stream.
Actually, what those are stream buffers. There is a definition of what we can call the stream, and the state has a buffer requirement around it. And when I first saw this, it was kind of odd. So we asked for a study There is what they call the North Carolina checklist, which is basically a checklist you go when you rate creeks to determine where those buffers are. And then I went out and looked at the site, and then I consulted an expert that I'd worked with for the last 15 years also. And this isn't, he said, this is not normal, but he's seen this before. And when I went out there, basically what you have is the topography changed, where you've got these buffers or these creeks, it's well defined. And as you go through the bottom part, especially the creek just disappears. There is no, what we call rested vegetation. There were no banks. So once you don't have rested vegetation or banks, you don't have a creek and you don't have buffers. So that is really odd. You almost have to walk the site and try to understand it. But talking with experts, seeing what their expert did, we required them to go out and have a environmental firm come and do the rankings. This is a true picture of what's out there. It's a little odd, but it's nothing.
So Jerry, and given that it is unusual, when we have a heavy rainstorm, because I know I have neighbors that we have heavy rainstorms and they have water running through their backyards, even though it's not a defined creek, will it be likely that there will be a lot of water running through lot 6, 7, 8 to 9?
Yes, there'll be a lot of water going in there. It's just, it will basically flatten out. There isn't a defined creek. You can't go out and say there is a definition the state has to determine banks, rested vegetation. Rested vegetation means there's water going through it and there is no vegetation, so it's a dirt bottom. Most creeks, you go out there, see that. What'll happen, especially on lot 8, the water comes and it just flattens out. When we were out there right after a large storm, you could see where some of the debris on the bottom, the pine needles, had been washed away, but there just wasn't a well-defined channel. And to be honest with you, I doubt very much if they're going to be able to do anything with it. You certainly couldn't put a septic field in there. We wouldn't allow a house to go in there. That is got a restraint when it comes to development, but it's not a buffer per se that's protected by the state ordinance.
And then one more question there, and looking at the cul-de-sac that extends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the topography there, it appears that from a topography standpoint, the actual cul-de-sac itself is below the grade of the street, and the detention pond runs at the end of that street. So how will the water drain from lots 2, 3, 4 to the detention pond?
Well, there'll be a regional detention pond, what we have right now. They've provided a preliminary hydrology study to show us, basically to make sure that will the pond will work. Numerous times we've gotten submittals and there hasn't been a study, and then as we come in to review the land disturbance permit, they have to go back and change a lot. So right now we require them to submit a preliminary hydro study and then also what we call a TSS spreadsheet, which is to show that they're meeting the state requirements. What's going to happen there? There's probably going to have to be some piping. They'll use the street to convey the stormwater. They'll have a collection system in the street to get the water down to a lower area. And also the pond on the very bottom at lot 9 and 10, most likely will be used to be the detention pond or the stormwater management facility, because that is an existing pond and that would make logical sense to do that. I will tell you right now, this is going to be an interesting project when they submit it for review.
Gary, well, like for instance, 9, if that's an acre lot, that including buffers, or would the acre start road back to where we have the 75-foot setback?
Well,
This may better show it.
yeah.
So lot 9 does have the property lines that go all the way to the back of the property. So lot 9 is this entire area. However, the buildable area is identified in the shaded area.
Okay, so in other words, the acre is included, not just where the house, that area, the whole
That's correct.
area is
That's
part.
correct.
What this shows is-
Defined as 1 acre
That's correct.
buildable.
This site plan shows where it's a buildable area outside of buffers, setbacks. And there'll still be other constraints, like in Lot 8, you're not going to be able to really build down where you have the draw. And remember, these areas are where not only do you put your house, your pool, your septic field, and your reserve. So what we found out lately is some of these acre lots, people are trying to put a lot of stuff when you do it. And we've had issues with pools in septic tanks. So an acre seems like a lot, but by the time you start putting in the larger homes and that, there isn't a lot of area.
And Jerry, just for clarification, you cannot put a septic field in a wetland or in a buffer.
Yes, you cannot put it, that's correct. You cannot put a tile field, an absorption field in a wetlands, because a wetlands is protected. You can't do anything on that. That has and stream buffers, the two buffers, the state buffer and our buffer are non-disturbed. In other words, you can't do anything in that. The only thing you can do in those areas is remove dead debris or invasive plants. Now, in the 75-foot, that's a non-impervious surface, no pavement. You can grade in that area, but you can't put any impervious, a pool, patios, or anything that is limited from that.
Septic can go.
Yes, we allow it in that one, just that buffer, but we don't regulate that. That's Fulton County, and we require a permit, a stamp plan before we approve any permits. So the septic is a system, and they have to do a soil survey and a design before we even will approve any kind of building plans.
Because as I pointed out, house number 9 is right on that border. So
Yeah, house number 9, to be honest with you, is going to be a very tough site. And these are really going to provide constraints on what kind of house you're going to be able to. It's going to lend itself to more custom design than just a stamped row home, so to speak.
And Tracy and Jerry, help me understand. I think, Tracy, you alluded to it, is that while this is a preliminary plat, there will be another review that staff will do regarding the buildable areas, especially as it relates to 1-6 through 9.
So once the applicant submits the land disturbance plans, their civil construction drawings, those drawings will be more detailed. They will have, we'll do a deeper study, and they'll provide additional information for each individual lot, the actual grading of those lots. The Commissioner Gilbert referred to limits of construction earlier. At the LDP stage is where we really get into the grading, the stormwater, the infrastructure, all of those items.
And actually, the way it works out, they'll submit land disturbance permit drawings, which for this will probably be a large set of plans, site plans, grading plans, utility plans, erosion control plans. These are going to be a 3-phase. It's going to be a large project. Hydrology studies, that's all going to have to be approved. And then each house in Milton requires you submit building plans and site plans for each house, which includes grading plans. So, and also erosion control plans for those.
Right.
So there's a lot of submittals, a lot of plans before we get to actually getting a house on the site. And then at the very end, when all the infrastructure's in, everything's as built it, we review all the ponds, pavements, and then the final plat is submitted, which we again review again to make sure everything's in compliance. So we're looking at, some of these lots will probably have 3 or 4 sets of plans submitted to us and reviewed before actually a foundation's built. And I didn't want to shortchange Arbor. She's not here, but trees are pretty.
Yes, that will include that review as well.
And just to echo what Commissioner Wysong had brought up at the last meeting with concerns that many of the houses at this price point want to do a pool, and coming back for variances, especially on those lots we discussed for a pool, will not likely be met favorably. So consideration for the builder there.
Yeah, there are some very interesting lot shapes.
Building on that last question, these are not going to lend themselves to lots or lots which would have pools on them. And it raises the question in my mind about the use of our large lot incentives and moving to a different configuration here that would have the 3-acre minimums. Question which would allow you more flexibility in creating lots of size and without these constraints. Has that been discussed with the applicant?
Yes, that was one of our first meetings with the applicant was Bob and myself and others. Encouraged them, talked about the 3-acre lot configuration. So that was not what they were pursuing.
I don't know who this is a question for, you or Bob or the applicant. Why did they choose to go in another direction? Just curious what the drivers were. That's fine.
He'll address that when they present.
That's
But
great.
Jerry and I can answer any other questions right now, or we can turn it over to the applicant.
I guess I've got one, because you talked on that other view, you had it defines steep slopes as
Right.
33%. When I look up at the top, like for example, lot 17, we've got 20 feet from the 1150 down to 1130 in half their lot. That's not considered a steep slope because it's not 33%.
Only the shaded areas that are on the key that
Yeah,
are considered.
but again, I'm looking at a 100-foot drop across the back or the north side of the lot too. And, whether it's steep or not, I'm just really concerned about the runoff and erosion and, the whole drainage piece on that, because I think we've all talked last time, this is a very uneven lot. And are there ways to put conditions on those, going back to, I think, what Fred and Laura and everybody else is saying about the pools? I mean, we can, if they go ahead, there's certain areas just, they will not be allowed pools at all, right? And rather than going, I think addressing that up front, I think that's probably the builder's responsibility to address that up front. Is that part of our recommendation? Can we say, no pools on these specific lots in general, or?
Well, again, during the LDP process, we will certainly work with the applicant to identify those lots that have restraints for things like pools. And when they come in with certainly a building permit, our communication to the applicant is that there's going to be lots that are going to be restrained, and that they need to be aware of that, and that should a potential buyer want to ask for a variance, it likely will not be supported.
All right. Well, and again, I think that communication needs to be there, because otherwise it's the city that looks bad, whereas we've said all along, this can't go here. We don't have room for this here.
And one other thing too is pools are permitted separately. So that's another set of drawings. And those pools have erosion control, and we look at all these other issues about grading too. So
Okay.
we're going to go through, if somebody wanted a house and a pool on it, it's going to be we're four or five sets of submittals by the time they get to that point.
Anybody have any questions before the applicant comes up? No, I think, the applicant's got a presentation.
Excellent.
Looking forward to that.
You've already loaded your presentation. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. It's good to see you all again. My name is Ethan Underwood. I'm an attorney with the firm of Miles Hansford and Talent, representing Toll Brothers. Our address is 202 Triple Gap Road in Cumming, 30028. We appreciate the opportunity to try to address the concerns. I know, frankly, I don't know if we could do a better presentation than staff has in trying to explain some of the questions that came up last time. But I lost my screen. There we go. But as stated, this is a third phase, and the Milton phase, and frankly, the most expensive phase of a larger development that is accessed from Forsyth County, and we'll have lots in both Cherokee, Forsyth, in addition to the city of Milton. And as stated, we're asking for 30 lots on 45 acres, so it's very low density. It complies with the comprehensive plans, estate lots designation. Now, some of the questions that we had last time is, where's the water going? Are we going to be flooding neighboring properties? We acknowledge here that no one has a right to send water where it does not naturally go. and your staff is very good at making sure they're in the development phase and the permitting phase, that is designed and prevented. But what will have to happen, there'll be a pre-development hydrology study and a post-development hydrology study. So what that means is this has to be designed so that water does not leave this site at a faster rate after it's developed with new houses and roads and more impervious surface than it does in its pre-development state. And that's what Mr. Oberholzer and his team and Tracy and Robin will be making sure the design complies with those state and city requirements. Now, as Councilmember Birds had pointed out, there are some oval shaped drawings on this site that looks like ponds. I think that's caused a little bit of confusion. They are breaks in a stream buffer. Usually a stream buffer is linear. This is just a unique piece of property. We don't see it often, but it occurs. But you will see on what's in front of you is showing the low spots. The darker shaded areas is the low spots. So irrespective of whether there's a stream buffer or an impervious surface setback, this is where water is going to flow naturally. So some of those places you could theoretically grade, but they're really going to be subject to drainage easements because that's where the water is going to flow anyway. So the water is going to be directed so that it is diverted to these areas, and it's going to be cleaned in accordance with county and state requirements. Has to be detained before it's released back into streams. Again, this is getting hyper technical. We actually do have our engineer here to answer this, but this is the soils map that was presented to the city. Again, topographically, now this gets maybe to the question of why not 3-acre lots? And the answer to that, this is a challenging site. It's got a lot of hydrology that the economics just don't work to do a 15-lot subdivision and have to deal with all the streams and the tree protection that is going to be required by the city. So with that tree protection, what is shown, these are preliminary locations of tree fencing. What you want to obviously have is your orange fence goes up before there's any grading. So that way the folks out there operating the track hose are not taking down trees. So the way you keep them from doing that is you put your tree protection fence on. You can see almost all of the specimen trees are located within those areas where there's the most water. They stop up that water and they grow larger. And that's where the larger trees are going to be protected. This is a combination that shows that low area, but also the topography of where that water is going to be shaped. Again, we acknowledge in a public forum that we can't put water out on adjoining property owners. It's going to have to be captured and directed so that it's not being released at a faster rate than the pre-development study or pre-development terms. Again, these are the preliminary designs. We still have to go through DRB. But these are the homes that are being presented. They're going to be $1 million+ homes on large lots. And we appreciate your concern and wanting to protect the beautiful area that is Milton, and we think this will add to it. So with that, we've got our team here. We're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? First of all, do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Any questions or comments for the applicant? Thank you. You kind of heard our concerns from last time, and again, it's a lot about the.
If I may add one more thing, Mr. Chairman, the question about swimming pools. What Toll Brothers is happy to do is to put a notice that says that the buyer's property is subject to stream buffers and impervious surface setbacks. I don't think we can contract away a buyer's due process rights to petition the city, but we can certainly put them on notice that their property is subject to a buffer.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So, any thoughts? Talkative group tonight. Well, yes, are we,
Kurt, remind me what we usually do with preliminary plats as a commission.
So basically, you're charged with making recommendations to the community development director for his consideration in the approval of the preliminary plat. So you're just giving recommendations or suggestions, but it's not approval or denial. It's just a review.
oh, well, No questions or more comments? Do I have do I possibly have a motion to recommend?
So I think the last time y'all did it, so
Yeah.
if you just make a recommendation, or you take a vote that if you have a list of items, or if there's nothing, then you just say you don't have any suggestions or comments to the director. Or if you do have some comments, just say, list the comments and say, we make a vote to forward these comments to the community development director.
Okay. Any comments that we should attach?
I'll take a stab.
All right.
I'd like to recommend the following comments regarding the Puckett assemblage. One, that a thorough hydrology study be done as part of the normal process. And considerations for land disturbance permits on that. That the notification on the stream buffers be included by the developer, and that efforts be made to save specimen trees.
Any other?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of adding those comments to be passed on to the development director? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstain or, okay?
I'm sorry, who made the second of that?
Fred?
And it was unanimous.
I was busy writing, so excuse me.
Certainly. Well, thank you. And again, I appreciate you coming back and hearing what we said last time. And, it's a joint effort. It's a three-legged stool, right? You guys, the residents and the city trying to make everybody happy and make it work. So appreciate you guys listening. All right. The next item is new business. This is an update on the comprehensive land use plan, the 2040 comprehensive land use plan. Jerry, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Is this new business or old business?
It's new. I'm sure there's something new in there for us. That's the way I look at it. All right, Jackie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good,
Good evening,
thanks.
commissioners, and welcome, Mr. Trey James. Glad to have you here tonight. So I'm giving you updates on the status of the comprehensive plan projects. I have provided you a copy of the updated report. To date, there are still 15 active projects on the list. No change on that number so far. So the overall project health is on target. There are just a couple of projects that I, categorize as potential risk due to a start date delay. However, it's minimal and can be mitigated. So it's been a busy, actually, month for staff involved in these projects. They're working very hard to ensure that projects are moving, that we're up to date, and that we're hitting milestones. So a lot of these projects require text amendments. So we want to make sure that we have a lot of opportunities for public engagement, making sure that we gather everyone's input before moving forward. Commissioners, I want to highlight the updates on the following projects. First, the lot width. This is a text amendment to increase the lot width from 100 to 150 feet. Staff presented to council early this month with a positive feedback overall from the council and mayor. There are two things, though, that they've requested. One is to provide more examples of lot layouts for minor plats. And then the other suggestion is to look into maximum impervious surface requirements. So all of this will be addressed in the text amendment process beginning next month. CZIM is August 23rd. We have Planning Commission September 28th, and then November 17, Mayor and Council. The next one is urban growth boundary. Staff presented to council meeting on July 25th. There were no feedback from council. Mayor, but we are going to come back again to present research findings, case studies, and some data points to Planning Commission next month. And then back to council again for that one. This one is Unified Development Code. The staff already finished with our review of draft 2. It's a version 2, and we've submitted a comments to consultant. Tonight, we're going to present to you draft version 3. Our next steps on this one, we'll have an opportunity to revisit again as a question and answer of draft 3. We'll have our consultant to be here and address some of your questions.
Well,
Of
and thank you
course-
for that, because I know at one point we were talking about
Yes.
doing that at the same time, so I appreciate you
Yeah.
getting it to us in August and giving some time to give some input on that, so thanks.
And then September 14, which is our public kickoff meeting. And then at the same day, we will open or publish our public review period of UDC. So we will have an online interactive software that will allow the public to view the document and make comments and suggestions. The next one is a sustainability project, which is a citywide solid waste and recycling strategies. So if you're aware, we've conducted an online survey on solid waste services. This survey closes on August 1st. So whatever the result of the survey will help us, determine our next steps, develop goals, our scope, and project plan. And we'll present this, of course, to Planning Commission, which is the date to be determined.
Any idea how that's going? I mean, any idea how the surveys, are we getting quite a few back, or?
That I have no
Okay,
idea.
that's just-
Yeah, Public
just
Works
a-
actually managing the survey.
I hope we get a ton, but
Yeah. The next one here is as part of our initiative to strengthen Milton's economic development for the next 20 years. CPAC recommends that we proactively focus on the Deerfield character area using RKJ study, actually also known as the Deerfield character area. Also known as the Deerfield Parkway Corridor Study. So we're looking into that. And then our next step is to draft a request for proposal or RFP and to update our LCI or the Livable Centers Initiative. So the last one that we have is in 2012. So it's that time that we have to update that. We're going to use that study and kind of like influence our policies or our plans for this character area.
Well, I know this is something that's been very important to Laura. So Trey's going to learn a valuable lesson here. Seeing that she's not here tonight,
Okay.
if you need any input from her,
Yes.
I'll volunteer her.
Yes.
To between now and then to give you feedback on this and to work with this. Because again, she understands that area and she's done very well, and
Yeah.
she'll never miss another meeting.
So, yeah, and once we have, more of a concrete report, we will bring it back here in Planning Commission and we'll present it. And lastly, of course, the branding study. We have completed the request for proposal. We are going to publish that on the Milton website tomorrow. So, and then next month, we're inviting the team leader to do a report for Planning Commission.
Excellent, thank you.
And then I think last is another plan, which this is not a comp plan. This is not a short-term work program, but I thought we could do a project dashboard, which we're going to incorporate it on our website. Basically, it's just to highlight our progress of active projects. We'll include budget, the different timeline stages, and other supporting materials. But yeah, so hopefully next month I'll have it ready.
But I also do think, I want to thank Ron and Judy and yourselves for this, the execution plan also. I think that,
Yes.
before this, there wasn't one spot to go for all this
Yes, that's
information
right.
for us. And this helps distill it down and help us get our arms around this. So
Correct.
thanks for the commissioners involved
Yeah, and we
staff, of
really
course. They put a lot of work
appreciate
into
that
this.
finally we have a good, what do you call this? More of like how we're approaching the projects. questions for me before we go to the work session?
So we'll need an adjournment of this meeting and then we'll start the.
Okay. Any questions on this at this point? No, I think it's good. But again, thank you. You guys have been busy. Got a lot of big things up, so.
Yes. Thank
Appreciate
you.
your effort and your late nights. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I move,
Go ahead.
we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Funny how the adjournment gets like, 6 people's rushing to want to make that motion. And it's not even dark out yet. Troy, you'll get, yeah, that's true. You'll get some evenings where it'll be nice and dark. I think, what's our latest this year been about?
After midnight.
Yeah, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah, you're the new guy. You bring the coffee and donuts.
Is that right? Just saying.
Can we officially move that meeting to like Six Bridges when it opens? Can we officially have it out there?
I don't see why not.
I like it. Kind of like kids going outside for recess or for, for class.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
Great.
We'll get one more thing. We just kind of spoon feed you, so.
You know us well.
Yeah.
Keep us focused.
Yes.
We have enough paper to keep track of.
And before you start, one of the things that we discussed earlier was taking a look at these sections. So as we're going through these of having, for example, each commissioner take a section to dive into. The concern is if we are all reviewing this in detail, the first 2 or 3 will be very well done and the rest will not be looked at. So if there's an area that's of interest to any of the commissioners up here, and you want to go through that one word by word by word, let us know and volunteer for that. I think there's some things that are pretty obvious for the commissioners that have interest in that area, but if there's something, let us know which
And
area.
I'll walk through them all. And then, I'm not going to go into super depth of each of them, but that's what I'm going to do is walk through.
But just a point of order, I think you have to call us to order and say who's here.
For the work session, we have to call the work session order?
I'm sorry, what?
He needs to call us to order and say who's here.
No, it's fine. It's it's very laid back. That's why. No votes, no, it's just a work session, so we're good.
Fair enough. Thanks.
Consider us called to order.
Yeah. I'll second that. Wait.
So anyway, I'm really excited. This is a long time coming. It's a heavy lift. A lot has been done in the background to create this unified development code. Trey, if you want some, speed training on it, I'll be happy to get with you about it. So, but basically, we're tonight presenting what we're gonna give to you. So we're gonna actually do it in 2 ways. I just messed this up. You're thinking, well, where is it, Robin? I get one thing. So tonight we are going to distribute a thumb drive that has both the red lines and the clean version to it. It's just too big to send it. We don't really have a FTP site that we can use. So that's what we felt like was the best process. So since you can't really open them, we'll go ahead and distribute them like. And then as we.
Again, we got to.
Let the record note that Ron was alarmed by the.
Yes. Don't be tonight.
Actually, she woke me up.
Yeah, it's like candy. And then after we go through everything, then we'll start divvying up. It's very hard to print this document redline, so we're going to give you, whoever decides to want to review certain articles, you can have a hard copy of a clean copy. But again, when you go through it, it's helpful to just look at the clean copy, but also to be able to look at a red line to see what changed exactly.
And also, it's important to note that going through this, we're not changing anything, right? This is not a chance. This is a chance to highlight those areas that we might want to change, but this is a like for like. If we see improvements, note that, and we'll come back but that has to go through a whole separate process. This is just to get everything in one area, one thing together. So,
Right.
and hopefully there are a number of things that we're going through this that we would like changed or we envision changing, but now's not the time, and there's a process in place for that.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. So it is a process, we're not making any major policy changes. I'm not saying there isn't a few little things there that we're tweaking to make it a better system, but as far as policy, that's not happening. So again, what you have before you is version 3. So there are, and then, like I said, there are red lines and clean versions divided by articles on your thumb drive. Just want to review some things that there'll be blue sections, even in the clean version, that are coded hyperlinks with the article. Blue updates automatically. So you'll see there will be references to section numbers, and then you click on it and it'll go to another part of the document. Yellow sections are cross-referenced, not in the article. And then Caleb has to update them manually. And then there's yellow text, means we want to draw attention to an issue or we know it needs work. So please keep in mind, our biggest lift lately has been the alcohol-related items to Chapter 64. They are not included in here. The city manager wants to work on Chapter 4 and bring Chapter 4 with Chapter 64 together to the council. I believe the moratorium ends sometime in October or November. I looked, but I forgot. So obviously he's on a timeline. He really wants to get it through. So that's why you haven't seen it on a council agenda yet. But I keep on reminding him, I really need you to do this because we need it to get put into the UDC. So, and then also the city attorney's not here tonight, but the city attorney will be reviewing the entire UDC just for legal oversight and onto the document. So it's going to take, did he say how many hours? He just gave us the cost.
Just gave us cost.
Yes. So we're anticipating that. So I'll just walk through article by article, and that's why I gave you that table of contents so you can follow along as well. So the first article is just taking care of legal status provisions, outlining the zoning districts, and then just talking about the official zoning map. So basically just housekeeping type issues. There's another, Article 2 is general provisions, lots and structures, exceptions like grandfathering, additional provisions. So that's again, not, super long section. So then then it's divided into articles as far as the different zoning districts, each article is divided between like agricultural and residential and commercial. So the first one would be agricultural districts. We obviously have AG1, but also there's going to be a reserved section. So this is provided for future type of agricultural districts. So we're going to be looking at AG5, AG10, AG15, possibly being an incentive for people, not forcing them to rezone, but they'll be available. But that's one of the short-term work projects, correct? Yes. So he just left that in the ordinance, knowing that may come down the road. So here's the residential districts, R1, R2, R2A, R3. So aside from R3, we really, like R1 through R3, there's not that many R1s. There's not that many there's just not very many of the first 3. There's some R3s. That's really a sewered area. And then the rest of them, we don't really have anymore. There's not much out there because we're unsewered and everything's forced to be AG1. There are some old CUPs, but you remember we ended up not eliminating it, but not allowing any more new CUPs. So all these there's a lot of them, but they're really not used very much. We have a little bit of R6. A long time ago, R6 was allowed, oh no, it's TR. TR was allowed to do detached units, but we changed the code a few years ago, so they're solely just townhouse attached units. A medium density apartment, you're thinking, why do we have this? Still, because we have form-based code where there's apartments, multifamily, but we did have a few years ago a rezoning back to A medium density because it was being sold and the lender wouldn't allow it because basically if one building was destroyed, then they'd have to rebuild the entire development back to form-based code. So they asked City Council to go back to A medium density apartment. Same thing for AL. More recently, about a year, I think January of this year, there was another multifamily development that existed that also requested this. So that's why those are sitting still in our code. And then the CUP plan, again, it's no longer active based upon action a few months ago. So, but obviously we need to keep it in. We do have CUPs that exist. So they still need to adhere to the zoning for CUP. And same thing with the NUP, neighborhood unit plan, that's no longer active as well. So then we go into business districts. O&I, office and institutional. We have some up at Birmingham Crossroads. And we have a little bit on Providence Road near the Union. Right next to it is an office building. It doesn't really look like an office building. It looks like a house, but so there's a little bit of O&I left in the city. We have MIX, mixed use. The only place that exists is at Birmingham Corners Crossroads at the southeast quadrant. C1, we do have some C1. Again, back up at Birmingham Crossroads, there's a couple of the corners that are C1, as well as along Arnold Mill, there's some C1. And so special districts. These are going to be the overlay districts and the rules applicable to them. Then we still have a little bit of State Route 9 overlay. I really wanted at the last 2040 to try that little strip along Bethany Bend, that corridor just north of McGinnis, whatever you call it right there. Someday, maybe before I leave, that could be converted over to form-based code, but that's the area that we have of State Route 9 overlay. Rural Milton overlay, which is really basically everything outside of the form-based codes and outside of Birmingham Crossroads. And then we have Birmingham Crossroads and historic preservation. So this is a district that we only have really actually only zoned one place, and that's at the general store at across from Bell Memorial Park. And that is based upon it. First of all, it has to be designated as being an historic structure through the Historic Preservation Commission, which right now is disbanded. So I don't really perceive that happening, at least in the near future, but it's still there in our ordinance. So our Article 7A, we're going to go into the form-based codes. Is crabapple, general. This is all really, he just took everything that was already there and just put it into a new article. I will say that when we get to standards and tables in the old version in the zoning ordinance, there was a use table. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in Article 8. But I'd asked Caleb to move that use table to go over into Article 8, where all the other traditional uses are. So I'll explain that a little bit more. So we picked it out of the form-based code and put it over to Article 8, which is uses. Also, I asked that all the definitions from the form-based code, because we worked with them a lot during the alcohol, that they're going to be put all together with the definitions. So the form-based codes do not have definitions anymore. Again, Deerfield, same thing. Repeated myself. Oh, that's wrong. It's not. So we'll go to use provision. Somehow that second slide is not correct. Article 8 is use provision. So I think I mentioned this before. We have multiple pages of permitted use tables, very, very, very specific. And to the right column is a hyperlink that goes to more specific regulations within Article 8 that are they're coordinated with each of the uses. And then again, it's divided up in residential, public institutional uses, commercial uses, industrial uses, open uses, accessory uses, temporary uses. Okay, so what else I was going to say about this? This is where when he describes different uses, there's definitions to the uses within this Article 8. So in the zoning ordinance, if you go to the use permits, some use permits had definitions with the use permit, and then sometimes you had to go over to the definitions. Well, each of those uses, instead of being in definitions, they're with the development standards. So just wanted to clarify, that's the only occasion when definitions are not in definitions, but it's in with each use. So they're just handy right there for you to look at. So site development, these are more general practices for parking and loading. The sign ordinance, or what was the sign ordinance, is in this section. Site improvements, the night sky illumination ordinance, landscaping. And so, yeah. So I believe that the tree ordinance is the should be the landscaping, so. No, it's not. It's environment. I'm sorry. It's an environment.
And the landscaping is not on the table of contents.
Okay, so I was using, he must have moved it. I was using version 2, and
Sure.
so I didn't catch that. Okay, streets and improvements, general provisions. So a lot of this stuff came from chapter 50, which was subdivisions, and we added it into the UDC. Trails, so that should be it. So, and then environment is the tree canopy conservation. Floodplain management, again, the floodplain was just updated in December. So we're basically just taking what was adopted as the most recent requirement of the state that was just done 7 or 8 months ago. Stormwater management, stream buffer protection, same thing, soil erosion, sedimentation, and pollution control. Noise control and air pollution. And then we go to administration. So this is where we talk about the processes of how different items go through the system. So we could talk about summary of review authority, review bodies, which we'll talk about the planning commission and the different BZA, et cetera. How do you do amendments? How you do text amendments, how you do amendments to the zoning map, which is really rezonings. Appeals is what goes to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The use provisions, again, a use permit. The subdivision review, the process that you guys do with preliminary plats. miscellaneous, and then violations and penalties. And then finally, the defined terms in Article 13. So the next steps, your review of the document. So tonight, when I'm finished with this, maybe we can talk about who wants to do what. And like I said, we have the hard copies available. Distribute those hard copies to each member. And the thumb drive we've already done. And then at the next Planning Commission meeting, August 24th, again, feel free to email me and I'll copy everybody, or you can copy everybody. You don't have to wait till next month. If there's something that comes up that you have a question about, please feel free to call or email. Maybe email's good so then everybody can hear what the response is. So don't be shy about that. And again, Caleb will be here to answer questions and kind of if there's any issues we can talk to him about. We would like to have the review by you all done by September 1st. So that will give him a couple weeks to make the changes needed for the public kickoff on September 14th or 15th. So, and then also as Jackie mentioned, we're going to have this really cool software, Conveo, that is going to be a great asset for the public to look at, as well as for you all to look at. So, and to review and make comments. With that, you guys have any questions?
So like the table of contents, is that based off of what we had before? I mean, he's just creating a whole.
Right, it's
new
totally
table.
different
It's just
than
whatever
what
he's
the,
created.
yes, because we're pulling different
Right.
sections from different chapters of the city code. So this is nothing like what the zoning code is.
So like in terms of feedback, can feedback even be with that too, in terms of how he's laid out table of contents or in sections and?
I mean, we can listen to it and see if, I tried to kind of think through what would make it the most easiest, and I don't really want it to be totally recombobulated, but because he does many UDCs, this is kind of, he tailors it to each city, but at the same time, there is a standard typically that is used. So,
Robin, will chapter 64 as we know it today exist longer after this?
64 would once this is adopted, 64 goes away. Yeah.
Chapter 4 goes away, et cetera.
Not chapter 4, not alcohol. No.
Okay.
So the subdivision regulations, chapter, I think it's 60 or 50, and that's pretty much gone. So the, I think,
Article 20 will be gone and
I'm sorry, 48, a lot of 48. Not everything in 48 is gone, just a section of it, right? Jackie, you remember
yes,
how,
just
it's
sections.
48.
Yeah, 48.
There's still part of 48 that's going to exist, but about half of it went into the UDC. So, yeah.
Given that I'm retired and also have an ability for attention to details, I'm willing to step up and do the pedantic work of making sure all the little alphabets in all the little use tables. So I'm willing to do Article 8.
Okay.
And given tonight's discussion, I'm willing to do Article 11, though I don't feel, in some ways, I feel like I'm the best person to do tree canopy because I've never read it. And in other ways, I'm maybe not because you all spent a lot of time on it. So I'm willing to do Article 11, but I'm willing to let someone else do 11.1.
What else? You said 8 and 11.
Oh,
Okay.
She gets it back.
There you go.
you're welcome. But if
Yes.
anybody wants 11.1 because they worked on it previously, I'm more than happy to surrender 11.1.
And we can make more copies of the plea.
And so the rest of them are easy because I took the thick ones.
There you go. Well, thank you, Judy.
Well, I'm going to volunteer on Article 9, site development, particularly under all the conversation in regards to signs. So I'll be happy to take that particular one.
Okay.
I'd be happy to sign up for 6, 7, and. Right.
And I'm happy to take 1 and 12.
You know who you'd be, Sabine, you'd be great at 13 too.
Yeah, 13's
Definition.
fine. Oh, yeah, 13 for sure. Yeah, I can take 13.
I think 13 is something we all might want
We
to,
all have to look at it just to
Yeah.
double check, but
Yeah, I'm good with, so 1 and 12, and I can take a stab at 13.
okay.
1, 12, 13.
And, again, are there any areas that haven't been affected much? I'm just thinking for Trey coming in. Is there any area that hasn't, that's not require a lot of depth to go through because he's new?
I think the zoning districts are pretty straightforward.
Which one?
Oh.
So if you want to do the ag and the
Article 3
residential.
and Article 4.
I give that a try.
I'll be glad to look
Do
at
we have
tree
anybody
canopy.
for that?
Okay. And so I guess,
But again, if you want to look at it, you'll have it on the thumb drive.
Yep.
That way,
I'm handing tree canopy to Trey.
okay, we'll take.
5, 2, and 10. One.
what's
Yeah,
that?
Business district,
Can we give that to,
general
that's-
provisions, and streets and improvements.
that to
Trey? Oh, yeah, we got to sign Laura up for some. Yeah, we're doing this all wrong. We should start a domain under Laura. Darn it.
Yeah. I think Dawn will probably give it.
It is a little bit like we were doing
So,
that here. Is this
so
what?
of these,
Laura Weinstein,
A little bit,
I've done that a little bit.
Ron took it.
looks like
her is the form.
business districts will sign her up for that.
We can always just make a copy.
Laura's taking business districts.
Yeah.
What are you taking, Kurt?
Hey, I'm,
What kind
there's only a couple left to give away here. No,
Who wants general provisions?
I'll take that one.
No, we just noticed that.
It's like
You don't have to announce that, okay? It's just between us.
Business district,
No, we'll give you business district.
and we were streets and improvements.
Okay, so we the last.
So what else is remaining? We have 10 streets and improvements?
So this is more, like street design and everything.
Okay, cool.
And who has 3 and 4?
3,
I've got 3 and I've got 4.
yes. And then I think that's,
No, we don't have a taker yet.
Who's taker for, yeah.
I think that's it. So I go through this.
Want to go through, what do you have in your hand?
And it's.
That's Kurt said he'd take that.
Oh.
How did-
We got you down
I
there.
don't think I've ever said, wait a minute,
I heard it
Laura,
too,
Laura's
yes.
not here and she only has
Oh,
one.
heard it.
We all heard it.
Maybe Laura decided, like,
Kurt?
strategically. not to.
Strategically, yes.
Thank you.
She knew already.
So Laura or me for streets, what do you guys think?
I mean, it's.
Oh, your friends are.
I mean, it's pretty dry. I mean,
How does that, okay,
I mean, it's
I'll
all
take it.
very technical. It's pretty much just coming straight out of
I'll take it.
the other ones.
I just hate
I
letting
mean,
Laura
again,
off.
like you said, I mean, that's about as non-polished, I mean, that's just
Is any,
engineering and stuff.
you want to recap who's got what, so I
Sure.
make sure I know in case
All
I
right.
have a question?
Yep, what I've,
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
I got it too.
Okay.
Yeah, just correct me if I'm wrong here. Article 1, Sumit.
Yep.
Article 2, Kurt. 3, Trey. 4, Trey. 5, Kurt.
no, 5 is Laura.
Oh, Laura, okay.
She's not getting out with nothing. She should have 1 through 10, but
6, Ron. 7A, this is the crabapple form base, Ron. 7B, that'll be Laura. 8,
You got
still
Ron.
wrong. Oh, so
So I think we
Judy.
were gonna give her a copy just
Okay.
so she can look at it.
All right,
too.
gotcha. We have 8, Judy. 9, Fred. 10, Kurt. 11, Judy. 12.
So 11, Trey took 11.1. I took the rest of 11.
Okay, 11.1. Okay. 12, Sumit, and then last 13, Sumit.
The only change I think we should make is Deerfield. Let's put Laura and Ron on there.
Okay, yeah, I've updated it.
Yeah, I think she,
Yeah, so
Okay,
and Ron works well with others. Just don't scare him.
okay, I think I've got it.
And so whoever has the zoning districts, like, the residential will be pretty easy, but like, just double check on, whoever has the business. Look at chapter 8, because you kind of want to make sure, you want to look at both things, not just what's in the zoning districts, as well as, the zoning districts and the form-based, well, the form-based code's over there. But whoever has any kind of zoning district, just make sure you look at Article 8 and look at the table to make sure everything is being recorded correctly. I think I've gone at the use table. I mean, I've gone through things. Oh, I know, the form-based code, Ron. So when you go through the form-based code,
Yeah.
just make sure the table that's in Article 8 is right, so.
The table that's in this Article 8 you're referring to.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
All the use tables going in.
Yeah.
You're looking at.
Yeah,
look at that.
yeah.
Just
Just have 2, 3 different sets of eyes, but I think
And
we've
I'll
gone
look
through it a few
backwards, too.
times. Yeah, so. Okay, any other questions or?
What did I just sign up for?
What's that?
Yeah.
What did I just sign up for?
I know,
To just
exactly.
review?
Can you kind of walk through what
Yeah,
the
what do you
expectations
want
are?
us to do now? Now we have a section. Now, what would you like us to do?
Yeah, what are the
with that?
expectations?
What do we do?
I mean, I think what Chairperson Nolte said, I think just looking through it, making sure that, I guess you kind of have to look at the red lines too. I mean, it's maybe read through the white, I mean, the final, the clean copy, and then maybe go through and look at the red lines just to kind of have an understanding of what was taken out, what was moved into it. I will say, I noticed on the introductory provisions and general provisions, there's a lot of red that is not, that Caleb created, but he was just, he's not creating new policy. He's just restating, what a zoning code should consider. So, again, that's going to be reviewed by the city attorney, but just so you're not like weirded out, like, well, where did this come from? This wasn't, we're not deleting something out and it's not being moved from somewhere else. So.
And they did add a lot of graphic.
Yeah, they did
They
graphics,
some
yes.
graphics. Hopefully you can look at the graphic and say, well, graphic really representing what.
That's a good
is
point.
Written. Trying to make the graphic so it's easier for people.
So, and
When I just scanned through this, you see like this, the removal of signs. It says section 9.2 and 7.c, highlighted in blue.
right, so
What
that's a
does that mean?
hyperlink. That's the hyper,
Okay, so that means I go to
whatever. that
section 9 and on my thumb drive.
Right.
When you hit the hyperlink on your thumb drive, it will automatically bring you to that.
It will if it's on a different chapter.
And I know we have the new software for the review, but right now, if we find something on a thumb drive, is there any way to make comments on this, or do we have to make comments on the written part? Is that why you have the written part?
If you have I think it's Acrobat, if your Acrobat has the capability to insert comment, you can
Okay.
do that. I mean, if not, you can just make a running list of all your comments, make sure you put what section is that, and you can email it to me.
Okay.
Then I'll incorporate that in there.
Okay, and this is one you'd like us to, as we're done with these, maybe send them along?
Right, yeah.
So
Or,
that
you
we
know,
don't-
if you have a question or, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
so I mean, I think that, you know, if we can have all the comments by the next planning commission, and then that'll give us some time to compile them together, and then for Caleb, you know, if there are issues that need to be changed in the text, then he can have that ability to change it for the next version for the public. So,
You know, and again, going back to Trey's question, you want us to go through these to be sure that it's a like for like, that whatever changes are made are consistent with the red lines and the code, to be sure that the links work?
right, I think it's more of like, like if you see something that's missing, like if you look at Article 8 and you look at a use like landscape business, and then look at the table to see, oh, I need to have a use permit. So there's another table within the uses that talk about, if you have a use permit, what different committees do you have to go through? And then, so if you think, oh, wow, they totally forgot planning commission on the use permit, well, that's really silly. I mean, I don't think we did, but, so it's just a lot of looking and double checking and making sure it makes sense, so.
We pretty clear on that, or?
Or, you know, I mean, and two, just feel like you're getting familiar with it. I mean, it's probably in a way you probably didn't even have the chance to get to know the zoning ordinance. I mean, this basically is a zoning ordinance with a lot of other different city chapters. Not a lot of them, but a few of the other chapters thrown in.
One question, I think I was reading in the Milton that this passes very unique,
It's not very unique. I don't know where they got that from.
but, well, in that comment was quite saying it was unique and no one else had done this.
That's not true, no. Like, City of Alpharetta's had theirs for 25 years, so we're kind of behind the times in it, to be honest, so. Maybe it was something else unique that you were.
No, it had to do with us
Okay,
being here
that's-
and when it was gonna be, it broke it down.
What's that?
Whoever writes that for the city.
Usually he puts it through me, but anything has to do with zoning or, I have
Oh,
no
it was-
idea.
At least when I was at the Atlanta Regional Commission training, it's more and more municipalities are moving toward this.
Right.
So it's not new, but it's a trend.
And I would say what we have unique is have form-based code. That's more what is unique to us. There's not, especially so widespread. I mean, Alpharetta has a version of form-based code for their downtown district, but they don't have it for the entire city. So, you know.
And it's an offshoot of that. It would be good to get Trey some information on the training if in fact it's something he wants to go forward with, the ARC stuff. That'd be
Right.
great.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful. It's good.
I gave him a copy of the book.
Okay.
Ooh, and you haven't
His
read it
wife
yet?
will be, if you're married, I'm sorry, I just made that assumption. Your wife will be like, what are you doing, honey? Every night you're like, in Netflix.
Yeah. You're falling asleep immediately. What is?
This is worse than college.
So,
I think
So-
ARC will offer another Planning Commission Academy next year.
In the
Yeah, I don't
spring.
think it'll be the
Spring.
fall. I think it's
In the
next
spring. of
spring.
next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's another.
So for example, like I have 11.7 And I know a lot of that is in 20. So will it be obvious to me that this came from 20? When I'm reviewing 11.7?
So that's a problem with, I mentioned to you that we just updated environment, parts of environment in December. And let me tell you, it will not be codified, but it'll be, if you go to Muni Code and you go to the homepage.
Yeah, where they have the
It's still
latest?
sitting there. It hasn't been codified.
Okay.
So if you're looking for environment, chapter 20, it's still going to be on Muni Code on the front page.
On the front page,
Yeah.
okay.
So then is the idea to get all the comments to you before the next planning commission meeting? And then are we gonna talk about anything?
Well, that's what, I mean, yeah, maybe like a few days before if you want to get it to us. And then if there's any outstanding things. But then, like I said, if as you go along and there's questions, please, or comments that you think are life-changing, or you just really need to know the answer, please reach out to me. And then we'll try to resolve them ahead of time. If you have anything or questions.
All right, all my sections look good, by the way, thank you.
Good to me.
A little bit more time. No. Okay. Anything else?
But this could be as simple as like, one of the comments I'll make is like 11.6 is bolded in the table of contents and it shouldn't be. It can be
Right, I mean, it
stuff
could
like
be,
that too.
typos or, consistencies. I mean, really Caleb is a one-man show as far as what I understand. He does everything to this, so,
Probably looked at it a dozen times, so. you
Right.
Welcome fresh eyes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, again, if there's questions, just mark it and we can,
Were you also going to go over the schedule kind of, or maybe I missed it on we have this and then the plan
so
of what's
then,
next?
I think it's mid-September is the kickoff for the public.
September
and
14.
then That's
Yeah.
for a month getting public input. I'm not sure we're going to get a lot other than, a couple people who are
Scott.
interested. And then what's after that?
After we've gathered all the inputs from the public, Caleb will do another draft, incorporate the changes, and probably present to us version maybe 5 at the time. And then we begin the adoption cycle, which PIM, Planning Commission, and then
And what's your thinking on target for CZIM and then planning commission
Okay,
again?
CZIM, currently it's scheduled here for 11/22 November. The Planning Commission, we've scheduled 2 sessions, one in January 4 and then the other in January 25. So work session and a regular meeting and the council after that.
CZIM will probably end up either being, I don't know where Thanksgiving lands, but we may have to look at that. That's the problem with my 4th week having stuff is it lands on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, your head was turned away. Did I just hear we're not meeting in December? We're meeting January 4th instead?
Work session.
Yes, I don't think we have one for December because it falls.
Well, we usually have a meeting.
Okay.
But, I
Okay.
mean, we could have, we usually do, I just move the meeting up a week.
Mhm.
But we may have a meeting in December.
I mean, unless,
just not on Christmas Eve.
everybody says they don't want to meet in December. I'm okay with that.
Not on Christmas.
I just don't know what's going to come down the line. I may get some use permits and stuff. So it's not like we cancel a meeting, but
No, okay.
because that gives us a little leeway. to-
Yeah. But our goal is to have this adopted hopefully March 6th.
Great. Well, again, it's a big change. One of the many large projects you have going on, so. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, anybody have anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Yep,
Do we have to call for adjournment, or do we just kind of have to say so long?
fine.
Adjourn.
It's just leave.